She told me I was dull. I winced as I sipped my beer. I know folks say crying in your beer, but I wasn't crying, no reason to. Sure, I felt bad, but not like I should grieve. A guy doesn't need to grieve a woman leaving. Why cry when you can find someone new? Women often complain about not finding good men. Funny how they say all the good ones are taken or gay. Yet my guy friends gripe about women not keeping promises. Many guys have been hurt badly in divorces. Something's not right there. People don't realize how good they have it. It's great to spend years with a partner and learn everything about them. I didn't mind her wanting something or someone else. What bothered me was her calling me dull. I think she made me dull just to leave me for it. That's unfair. She hasn't officially left me. She just said she's going to see someone else because I'm dull. When I was younger, I loved adventure. I went kayaking with my friends around islands and in mountain streams. Once I paddled to Long Island 12 miles away. People said it was too risky, but I did it several times without any issues. I enjoyed camping on the beach and paddling back the next day. Karen didn't approve of this behavior for a husband and father. She believed my family depended on me, and I shouldn't take unnecessary risks. Also, I stopped doing backcountry skiing, riding my motorcycle, driving my little Triumph Spitfire, scuba diving, mountain biking, and rock climbing. As a responsible father, I began skiing on well-maintained slopes, not too steep though. I stored my dirt bike and Triumph, swapped my mountain bike for a road bike, and joined a gym with a climbing wall. I drove a minivan. Yeah, a minivan with fake wood paneling. I know, but I loved my family, so I don't care what you think. Once she regulated my hobbies, she started making demands about my job. She didn't like it when I had to travel. Most of my trips were short, just a day or two, for business negotiations. Sometimes I had to go to London or Hong Kong or wherever needed. I was skilled at making deals that either led to a successful acquisition or a profitable sale for my company. She despised the international trips because they often lasted a couple of weeks. Despite the nice bonuses that came with them, which helped our finances, she hated me being away. When I became a partner, the amount of overnight travel decreased significantly. I could fly to most places within the country, seal the deal, and return on a late-night flight. However, it took years to reduce the international trips. It was a dilemma. Travel a lot, earn big money, advance to senior partner status, train and oversee negotiating teams to close deals on your behalf. Cut back on travel. Let others take those trips and reap the rewards. Risk being left behind on the corporate ladder. But I wasn't going to let that happen. I strategized wisely. I found ways to combine reasons for travel, so one trip could earn multiple accolades towards my path to partnership. I was the first in my company to embrace teleconferencing for groundwork. I made sure to charter small jets for my teams to maximize our time on the ground. It meant sacrificing some of my bonuses, but it paid off in the end. I climbed the corporate ladder, Karen was happier, and everyone was secure. Yet, darn it, I was still bored. I gave up everything to match her priorities, and now I'm dull. Seriously, I thought. Let her go chase whatever thrills she wants. Meanwhile, I'm going back to the old me I used to enjoy so much. The me who had a blast doing my own thing. The me who defied gravity zooming off a muddy slope during motocross weekends. The me who hopped on a helicopter to find fresh snow on remote slopes that took all day to ski down. The me who returned to those slopes in summer and climbed back up. She wanted me to stay home and wait for her. Remember that whole safety thing? Well, I was supposed to be ready to help her if she got into trouble on her date. Seriously, after 25 years of marriage following 4 years of school friendship and dating, all that time I thought she was smart. Turns out she wasn't, and I didn't agree to that nonsense. I wasn't going to be home for her, either on call or waiting up when she returned. Talk about dull. All promises were off. All vows were off. Along with forsaking all others, love, honor, cherish, and obey went out the window. Well, she rejected that last one, and now I see why. Dull wouldn't matter if obey was part of it, so I got home from work, changed into jeans and a sport shirt while she was in the shower, and started digging out my old boots. She always liked me in boots. Riding boots, hiking boots, western boots, dress boots, it didn't matter. But they all disappeared when I turned into Mr. Safe. I should say Mr. Dull now that I've been redefined. I knew I looked good in those boots, though. They fit just as well as ever. I had put on some weight in those 25 years, but it was all muscle in my upper body. So I knew those boots looked even better now that I had broader shoulders and a manly chest, a touch of aftershave and a sharp sport coat, and there was no question I wasn't waiting around for her. She wasn't pleased. "What are you doing tonight?" "Nothing." "Dress up." Who said being dull couldn't be stylish? I was out the door before she could respond, and as I headed towards my weekend, the minivan started smoothly, its large four-cylinder engine coming to life. Well, maybe it coughed to life. All right, I can't fool you. The minivan hesitated and clattered into action. To its credit, it had already made its way up the driveway and started towards town before Karen could even put something on. I smirked as I watched her rush out of the front door in her robe. It didn't take long before my phone rang, and I ignored it, letting it go to voicemail. I had set up a new message just for this occasion. "Hey, it's Dale. I can't answer right now because I'm either busy driving or being uneventful. If you're after some excitement, call my wife Karen at 555, 269. She'd enjoy talking about me. Otherwise, leave a message, and I'll respond when I can. But don't expect it to be soon. Maybe by Monday. Bye." First step, get rid of this junky van. I was tired of driving something with fake wood paneling. I needed something tough but classy. I'd even settle for real wood siding, like an old Willys wagon. Remember how cool it looked with the surfboard on top? I couldn't find the right match, or an old Willys Woody. I enjoy riding it now that I'm free from that old, boring, soul-crushing burden. It feels good to say that. In the past, choosing something both classy and tough would have felt like giving up. The old, dull me would have just stashed away the checkbook from our savings account and headed home. No way was I going back home. I bought one of each. I got a tough car and a fancy car. The Mercedes dealer hooked me up with a slick convertible. Very fancy, my friends. Nothing's fancier than a guy cruising in a Mercedes convertible and knowing how to say, "Very fancy, my friends," in French. I know. I miss the accents, but I don't care. I'm not boring anymore. And looking them up would have been, wait for it, boring. The dealer also had a badass Jeep in his used car lot, decked out with tough lifters, rugged tires, bright fog lights, and a loud train horn, among other upgrades. I drove off in the Jeep, while the convertible was delivered to my house and parked in the driveway Sunday morning. "Boring," she said. The old me was never boring. The me she made was a total drag. That guy was history, pushed back into his hole while I went out seeking my first adrenaline rush. I bought a trailer and headed home. Not to the house I shared with my wife, but to Mom's place. I hadn't seen Mom in a while, so it was time. The 3-hour drive was great as I got used to driving something with some power under the hood. Mom was thrilled and had my favorite lasagna waiting. She didn't ask why I was there or why Karen didn't come along, but she knew something was up. She always could read me. The next morning, I went to the shed and got my old Spitfire. I'd kept it there all these years. My brother had driven it occasionally to keep it in good shape. The dirt bike wasn't as lucky, but I didn't need to start it to load it onto the trailer. By lunchtime, I had both the bike and the car on my trailer, and Mom was smiling. "So, spill the beans," she said. I grinned back. "About what, Mom? 25 years of living life Karen's way? You raised 3 kids while I rode around in minivans and took on beginner slopes? Then suddenly, I show up without your daughter-in-law, driving a big truck, wanting my sports car and motorcycle back, and wearing these snazzy boots." Like I said, Mom could read me like a book. I explained Karen's recent mental struggles. "Maybe that girl's a bit nuts, but you should thank her. Honey, she set you free." Mom was right. She always was. That evening, I turned my phone back on. Karen and the kids had been blowing up my phone all day. I put the kids in a group chat and replied, "I'm okay. I'm at Grandma's. Your mom and I aren't seeing eye to eye, so I needed some time to think. Ollie, Mom's freaking out, saying you're missing and she doesn't know why." I'm not going to lie or explain. It's not my place. I'll just say your mom thinks I'm boring, so I'm doing something about it. She can tell you what she's up to. Jenny, Mommy isn't acting like herself. She's always been cautious. She wouldn't do anything to hurt you or our family. You should come home and sort things out. Thanks for your trust, sweetheart. Before you judge me, talk to your mom. Daniel, we're not blaming anyone. We just want what's best for both of you. Thanks, son. Let me know when you've talked to your mom. I stayed over at Mom's, enjoying a silly old movie, and was about to hit the hay when my text tone went off. "Jenny, Dad, I'm sorry. I can't believe Mom went out with another guy. Me. I know, honey. Jenny, what will you do? Me. I'll keep living my life as usual. I just won't stress about your mom's rules anymore. If they really mattered, she would have followed the marriage rules we both agreed to. Not happening, kids. She set me free. I'll live how I want. Daniel, hey Dad, I understand. Give Grandma a kiss for me. And when I'm back next weekend, I want to ride in the Spitfire. Me. Haha. You guys know me as well as Grandma does. Ollie, you bet. And we're expecting a ski trip for spring break, somewhere with a helicopter instead of a T-bar? What can I say? My kids know the things I used to do and what I really love. They've seen photos of me skiing and covered in mud from motocross. Me? Absolutely. I'm thinking Banff. Get ready for some adventure. Mom and I hit our favorite bagel spot Sunday morning. I stuck around and helped her with some chores at home. During lunch, my phone buzzed with a text, and I chuckled at the angry message from Karen. They had delivered my Mercedes, but locked the keys inside since I had the spares. All Karen could do was stare at it, blocking her car in the garage. I'd need to give the delivery team an extra tip for that. I headed home. Karen's car was there. I parked the Jeep in my driveway, hopped in with my many CDs, and drove off, laughing as Karen tried to flag me down. Now she could see my new Jeep with its trailer carrying her two enemies, my Spitfire and my Kawasaki. Food for thought. At least her side of the garage was clear, and she could leave, right? Too easy. Boring, she said. I didn't return home. I went to the mall to buy enough clothes for a few days, then checked into a nearby high-end hotel near my office. I booked the penthouse suite. I didn't earn all those bonuses over the years for nothing. I slept soundly. The following day, I went to work like usual and informed my team that I'd be joining the next trip, a visit to Hong Kong involving 160 acres of prime industrial property. Negotiations had hit a snag, so it seemed like the perfect opportunity for me to assert some authority. My team was excited. They had identified 3 other potential acquisitions to explore while there. Why wait? I questioned when they presented their initial findings on the sites. We're going to inspect, but be ready to make purchases. Inform our legal team there that we're coming in prepared, and they need to be ready to handle significant paperwork. Pack for at least a month, folks. If that's not possible, arrange to work in tandem with members of Ian's team. Feel free to bring your families over for a visit at least once while away. I don't want any marriages suffering from this push. In fact, I'll cover hotel, airfare, and expenses for them to join you for the entire duration if desired. I'll even arrange some sightseeing. I want you all motivated, focused, and productive. A month, boss, maybe longer. I'm planning to visit Sydney about that hotel group in Buenos Aires before we return. I'm sending Ian to Seoul and Mumbai while we're in Hong Kong. We have a fantastic opportunity to make substantial profits here, team. Glad to have you back. Boss, Carter Douglas, my successor as a top-notch negotiator, grinned at me. I grinned back and pulled my favorite numbers enthusiast aside. Kim, can I have a word with you, please? I escorted her to my office, instructed my secretary to hold my calls, especially from my wife. She nodded, and I shut the door with Kim and me inside. Here's your big opportunity, Kim. We need to move quickly and with no room for mistakes. Most of what we buy, we'll sell right after returning home. Every transaction needs to go smoothly and on time. Some of our purchases may not be ideal, but we'll attract sellers with items we want, so we'll trade some to obtain others. Additionally, we'll be exploring new markets for some of our product lines. These won't provide immediate benefits, but will lead to long-term profits that will impress our partners, the people who will elevate you from a junior associate to a more lucrative position. This is your chance to shine. I need you available 24/7, ready to support any argument or claim I make before and during negotiations. 24/7? What's that mean? Kim asked. I grinned. Karen, dating other men? Does this mean I can sleep my way to a partnership? No. One betrayal from a woman is too many. You'll have to earn your way up like everyone else. You know you want to have me, I replied. It was true. She was incredibly attractive, slim and graceful, with legs that curved perfectly under her lovely rear end, and her revealing outfits constantly reminded everyone how alluring and soft her enticing curves looked. Yes, but you're my employee, so no, that's not happening. However, you'll be readily available for my business needs on this trip. Pick me up in a limo Friday morning. Dress as provocatively as possible. Even if I'm not, I want my wife to worry that I'm involved with you. When you arrive, come to my door to fetch me. When booking the limo, request Jan as the driver and tell her to wear the uniform with the short shorts. I want my wife to be insanely jealous when I leave. My team was eager. My wife was anxious to see me. My kids were angry with my wife. Kim was eager, not necessarily for me, but for a promotion. Well, maybe a bit for me too, but I had set boundaries. I went to the airport to rent a plane. I considered skydiving. But don't worry, I wasn't going to harm myself. If I wanted to rediscover the thrill seeker I used to be, I had to get off my butt and seek some excitement. It was exhilarating. I rented cameras to document the stunt with my jump partner. I shared it on Facebook and had a fantastic night's sleep. The following day, my phone buzzed with missed calls and texts from the kids. Karen reached out saying, "No surfing. The real me was back." She called me boring. I didn't really want to see Karen, so while she was at work, I quietly slipped home and packed my belongings. I headed to the airport and caught a late flight to Chicago. There wasn't a pressing reason to go, but I had some potential opportunities waiting. It turned out to be a profitable couple of days and kept me away from Karen until the big trip. I arrived very late Thursday night, and the house was dark. She didn't even realize I was there when she finally came home at 2 a.m. Luckily, she was alone. Otherwise, I would have had to confront her about bringing her young men into our home. But this way, I could avoid seeing her until I was ready. I felt energized. I woke up early, packed my refreshed luggage, and set it by the door. I made myself a hearty breakfast of steak and eggs, with ZZ Top playing on the stereo in the kitchen. I wore a perfectly fitting pair of casual slacks and a stylish new sports shirt that Karen hadn't seen before. Dressy yet comfortable seemed ideal for the 18-hour journey to Asia, and I made sure to look good. Karen descended the staircase, lured by the aroma of coffee, my specialty. Hers always fell short. "Oh my God, Dale, you're home. Honey, why didn't you answer my calls? I've been worried sick." "Yeah, the kids mentioned you were worried. No need. I'm fine. I'm just doing my own thing." "Oh, no, you don't, mister. I need a better explanation than that," Karen insisted. "It's a perfect explanation. Last week, you made it clear you were going to do as you pleased, and I couldn't stop you. So I figured if my dear wife is going to pursue her own interests, I might as well do the same. If it's the new us, I can accept it." "I never said you could do whatever you wanted. I said I was going to go out with other men," Karen clarified. "Okay, I understand, but that's not what I wanted. So logically, if you can make such a significant decision against my wishes, there's no reason for me to consult you on mine." "There's absolutely a reason. You have a family to consider. A husband and father shouldn't be gallivanting around on a motorcycle or racing little sports cars." "I thought we settled that years ago," Karen reasoned. "We did, but we have also grown older, and our situation has changed," Dale began. "Karen, I gave up all those things for you and the kids. I drove a minivan, skied bunny slopes, and hadn't jumped out of an airplane for years until this week. You said I was boring. Ish? That's because I was bored. Now the kids are gone. They have huge college funds, and here's a big surprise neither you nor they know about. They each have a trust fund that matures when they graduate college. They have enough money to go to grad school and put a down payment on a nice house wherever they live. Face it, the kids will be fine, no matter what happens to me. Were you? So if the chute doesn't open and I die doing something awesome, I'll die with a smile on my face and they'll be fine. And me, you know I have a stake in your future too. You have a wife." "Karen, I hate to break it to you, but no, I don't think I deal," Dale continued. "What? Now just hold on, Dale. That's a pretty big leap. We just started exploring this whole thing. And you already think I don't think anything," Karen protested. I know I don't matter that much to you anymore. If I did, you never would have given me that ultimatum. You think I'm boring. Okay, that's easy to give up. I've got some fun to have. I gave up a lot in the name of being a family man, but the family man isn't exciting enough to keep his wife from resting her head on someone else's pillow. The doorbell rang just in time to rescue me from another round of this absurd conversation. Jen walked in, followed closely by Kim. Together, they brought in 4 of the most attractive pairs of legs you've ever seen. Did I mention how dashing I looked in gabardine? I looked even better with a bulge in my gabardine. Jen greeted me warmly with a hug and a kiss, then began ferrying my 4 suitcases to the waiting limo. Meanwhile, as Kim handed me a file and began updating me on our negotiation progress, detailing numbers and project specifics, Karen's attention was immediately captured. "Hong Kong, Sydney, Buenos Aires? How long are you going to be gone?" she inquired. A couple of months, I expect. Plenty of time for you to explore before you're too old. Do me a favor, though. Don't let them into the house, I replied. Karen launched into a series of pleas, each one more compelling than the last, urging me to stay and discuss the evolution of our relationship and where we were headed. But I stopped her there. Honey, wrong tense. Our relationship isn't going. It's gone. And right now, so am I. See you in a few weeks. As we headed out to the car, I didn't catch a word of her chatter, but I did crack a smile when she noticed my Jeep, my Spitfire, and my convertible parked in front of all 3 garage doors, including the one where her car was hidden. Of course, what she muttered was too crude for me to repeat, even here. Hong Kong was amazing. Kim stayed in the suite next to mine, so she was always nearby, but strictly in a professional capacity, as we had agreed. She was sharp with the numbers, and together we successfully closed all the expected deals and lined up others for follow-up teams to finalize in a month. We also made significant progress in Australia, securing an agreement in principle to acquire an entire hotel group. Once again, a team would return in a month to finalize the deal. We explored further acquisitions and moved on to Argentina. Once more, I was able to strike a deal with a motivated seller, and the team identified other projects for our corporate portfolio. Throughout it all, I remained faithful to my marriage vows, hoping beyond hope to come home to a Karen eager to reconcile. Damn, Karen might have lost it a bit, but I still have love for that wild woman. I wasn't ready to call it quits. Instead, I saw her ultimatum as permission for an open marriage. We'd stay married, but could have flings on the side. No issues there. Carrie Moore, an old college buddy turned high-end buyer for wealthy tourists in Hong Kong, showed my team around town, hitting up the famous markets. Before our 12-day stint in town ended, she sent me to a top-notch tailor. I left for Sydney with a bunch of custom-made suits and spent the nights getting down and dirty with her. It was just what I needed, someone I trusted, a posh hotel suite in an exotic city, and some unrestrained passion. I felt a pang of guilt for about 10 minutes, until I remembered Karen was the one who set these rules. She called me boring, but I realized I'd never been boring. I had, however, been bored. Carrie wasn't dull either, and judging by her reactions in bed, she wasn't bored with me either. When we moved from Hong Kong to Sydney, we hired a tour guide named Sydney, exploring the beautiful city by day and spending time with the charming brunette by night. It was a double dose of pleasure. And let me tell you, I'm not just repeating myself when I say I loved every minute of being in Sydney. Rio was another prime spot for business ventures. While we didn't do as well as in Asia or Australia, it was enough to justify extending our stay for another month. Speaking of extending, I crossed paths with a fiery Latin divorcee who gave me some steamy lessons in tango, both on and off the dance. As we finished our deals, I sent my team back individually on first-class commercial flights. A couple of days later, I boarded a leased jet where the flight attendants welcomed me into the Mile High Club and taught me the ropes of a threesome. It was quite the trip, but I wasn't ready to call it quits just yet. Boring? Yeah, not exactly. Before heading home, I treated my Riotan companions to a skiing trip in Canada. I rendezvoused with my kids in Banff before Christmas. Why not? They finished their finals a week earlier than expected, so we enjoyed some fantastic skiing on steep, powdery slopes accessible only by helicopter. By night, I partied with my kids and also spent time with a curvaceous blonde housewife I met at a bar. When she shared her story of being traded in for a younger model by her husband and feeling lost, I offered her a job. After our third night together, I proposed a generous housing allowance and offered to cover her moving expenses to become my newest personal assistant. Each night, she reached her climax in a different language, and when she switched to Russian on the third night, I realized her multilingual skills would be a valuable addition to our expanding international ventures. Hiring her meant no more sleeping together. Just because my cheating wife disregarded our marriage vows, it didn't mean I would abandon my business ethics. Plus, our time in Banff was almost up anyway. We flew home a few days before Christmas. The kids went to see their mom while I checked into a hotel near work. Dealing with Karen and jet lag simultaneously wasn't on my agenda. However, I did treat myself to a condo as a Christmas gift. When I arrived home, my cars were still parked in front of the garage. Surprisingly, there was a Mini Cooper convertible next to my Spitfire. I expected Karen to be upset, but she greeted me as if nothing had happened. Maybe I wasn't boring to her anymore. I participated in Christmas festivities, enjoying her cooking and helping with chores. After parking the Mercedes and the Spitfire in the garage, I left in my Jeep. The phone rang. I hoped for a Christmas truce, and luckily, we got one. "You could stay a couple of days for the kids' sake," she suggested. So I did, sleeping in the guest room. The day after Christmas, I took each car to be washed. Leaving them exposed to the weather for 4 months might not have been the best decision for their condition, but it served as a constant reminder to Karen that things had changed. I intended to park the Spitfire in the garage and garage both the Jeep and the Mercedes at the condo. The day after Christmas, Karen resumed her attacks. Her boyfriend joined us for lunch, and she grinned triumphantly. I retreated upstairs, grabbed my bag, and prepared for battle. The kids were livid with Karen, catching her off guard. She probably expected a different outcome. However, it was Christmas. I interrupted their confrontation to bid farewell, and they chose to say goodbye to Karen instead. We packed their bags into the Jeep and drove downtown. There was plenty to keep us entertained in the city for New Year's, and we were determined to enjoy ourselves. We explored museums during the day and frequented clubs at night. Both kids had friends nearby, so we alternated between hanging out together and breaking away. I also found moments to be alone, though I wasn't truly alone. By the time I returned to work, I had experienced enough music, visited enough museums, savored enough fine cuisine, and indulged in plenty of wine and whiskey to last a lifetime. I settled into a new routine that wasn't quite routine. My successful ventures in the Southern Hemisphere that autumn had elevated my status within the company and attracted the attention of our competitors. I began receiving offers from other firms impressed by our sudden display of strength. I didn't keep this information from my team. In fact, I assured them that if I decided to leave, I would bring them along. News of the developing situation reached the senior partners, prompting a summons to the boss's office. The company had been founded by Karen's grandfather, and under her father's leadership, it had grown into a diversified conglomerate encompassing various manufacturing ventures. My entry into the company coincided with my marriage to Karen, starting me off as a junior analyst, a role aligned with my academic background. I received no special treatment and even signed a prenuptial agreement to relinquish any claims to Karen's future inheritance of the company, which remained largely under her father's control. While I maintained a cordial relationship with Mr. Adams, our interactions were not overly familiar. He preferred to maintain a professional distance from his employees, including his son-in-law. Initially, I found this approach peculiar, but as I progressed within the company, I recognized its effectiveness in preventing favoritism and adopted a similar approach. Consequently, I abstained from engaging in personal relationships with colleagues, such as sleeping with Kim or socializing through activities like golf. In business, I adhered to a strict code of conduct. Therefore, it came as no surprise when Adams got straight to the point during our meeting. "Business is business, Dale. It appears there have been significant changes for you recently. While your performance at work has been commendable, it seems you've encountered challenges in your personal life with my daughter. Should I be concerned?" Mr. Adams inquired, his tone serious yet concerned. I settled back into the comfort of the small chair positioned in front of his desk. "Indeed, you should be, sir. Despite my 25-year tenure with this firm, I remain at the junior partner level. Over the past 5 years, I've brought in more business than any other manager, and my recent business endeavors in Asia were unmatched. Consequently, my earned bonus surpassed that of any other employee, including your divisional presidents. Yet I still find myself without the promotion I've worked hard for. Therefore, I am contemplating accepting the standard severance package and seeking opportunities elsewhere," I explained, my tone a mixture of frustration and resolve. Mr. Adams leaned forward, his expression showing a mix of hesitation and understanding. "Dale, I can't promote you like anyone else. You're my son-in-law. How would that look?" he asked, clearly torn between the familial relationship and professional responsibilities. I responded firmly, "I understand the delicate nature of our situation, Mr. Adams, but business is business. This means taking an offer that reflects my ability and contributions. I could be a full partner tomorrow at Woodford Unlimited or Mark Manufacturing. I hoped for some loyalty, not just as your son-in-law, but as a dedicated employee," I articulated, stressing the importance of merit over familial ties. Mr. Adams sighed, his demeanor softening. I see your point, Dale. Perhaps I've been too cautious, trying to avoid the appearance of favoritism at the expense of recognizing your achievements. Let's discuss a way forward that acknowledges your contributions without compromising our principles, he proposed, opening the door to a constructive dialogue. Grateful for the shift in his approach, I nodded. Thank you, Mr. Adams. And it's Dr. Carter, actually. I defended my thesis for my PhD in economics last May, I corrected him gently, seeking the professional respect my efforts had earned. Very well, Dr. Carter, it is. I'm aware of my daughter's actions and I'm not pleased. We have spoken, to put it mildly, and, well, she is not speaking to me, Mr. Adams admitted. My philosophy sucks, and your philosophy on loyalty is totally out of sync with the rest of the world. Your business's business thing is just an easy way of dealing with a workforce that views you as a cold-hearted boss with the personality of a dead fish. Tell me, is it wise to keep your top producer down just because I'm your son-in-law? I don't see much reason not to peddle my skills to another firm, I concluded assertively. To cut a long story short, the arrogant individual dared me to unleash my full force. I did exactly that. By the end of the workday, not only had my entire team resigned, but Ian and his team had as well. You've never seen someone backtrack so quickly. I was promoted to senior partnership with a substantial raise, and both our teams received raises too. Additionally, a mergers and acquisitions division was established specifically for us. With my professional and financial futures secured, I shifted my focus to my personal life. I hit the trails on my bike, both wild and dirt, and even competed in motocross races. I rode downhill on my mountain bike, getting covered in mud, which some biker chicks found appealing. One of them, a Harley enthusiast, admired my motocross style and even suggested I contact her when I upgraded to a larger bike. I joked that what's between my legs would require more than 2 wheels. As I loaded my bike onto the trailer behind my beach cruiser, she loaded her Harley onto it alongside my Kawasaki. We spent the night discussing the advantages of agility versus raw power in our motorcycles, comparing them in detail during sweaty, passionate conversations. I pursued skiing more than ever, tackling challenging slopes like Tuckerman's and seeking out adrenaline-pumping glaciers in the Pyrenees when the summer heat closed the slopes on Mount Washington. It's amusing to see women sunbathing in just their swimsuits at a lodge high up in the mountains, right next to a snowy slope. It's even more entertaining when they decide to shed the rest of their clothes later in your hotel room. I completed enough tandem jumps from a perfectly safe airplane to qualify for solo jumps, so I did just that. The same instructor provided me with sufficient training hours and a sailplane for solo flight. It was exciting for her to have a student achieve both milestones in the same month. She even joined me for a naked jump and practice session on a deserted beach where we landed. Unfortunately, we couldn't figure out a way to do the same in the sailplane due to the seating arrangement, so we jumped back to the beach for another round. It was thrilling the first time, so why not do it again? I shared all these adventures on Facebook, and my page buzzed with comments from friends and family, especially the kids who were as distant from their mom as I was. Speaking of her, she attempted to confront me, but I kept moving, making it impossible for her to corner me like she could with someone dull. Dull? Me? Ha! Ignore her attempts, my phone kept ringing after each post, but I chose not to pick up. She even tried to confront me at work, enlisting her father's help to summon me for a talk. He didn't attempt that again after I threatened to switch companies. He had to intervene to prevent her from accosting me further. Some people's offspring, I tell you. Then came the intense persuasion. Relatives, pets, and even acquaintances were all urging me to give her another chance. They argued that everyone makes mistakes. So, I asked them to imagine being in my situation. I instructed the women to undress and prepare for intimacy, reasoning that if forgiveness was that easy, I could make my own errors too, starting with someone who understood forgiveness. Likewise, I urged the men to bring their partners or family members for the same purpose. Though some were taken aback, they grasped my point. Perhaps some would never speak to me again, but that wasn't necessarily a negative outcome. Tired of the unsolicited advice, I decided to leave. I hit the road again with my team, who were excited to embark on another spree after our successful ventures in Asia and Argentina. This time, we targeted Brazil and Argentina once more, followed by a return to Hong Kong. Our endeavors were fruitful. We leased space and established the firm's first international office in Asia. Karen's father had no objections, since our success warranted a continued presence. As a result, yours truly was appointed as Vice President for Operations in the Southern Hemisphere. I stationed Ian in Argentina and Kim in Australia, and our division's business flourished. I stayed away from home. Karen wanted to join me, but the kids convinced her otherwise. I didn't want her around, and somehow she came to accept that. I sent the Spitfire and the bike back to Mom's. I gave my son the Jeep and my daughter the Mercedes. I granted Karen a divorce and gave Carrie an engagement ring. Yep, I had no intention of spending the prime of my life alone. I desired a good woman by my side. Plus, she enjoys skydiving. So I got everything I wanted: adventure, a happy household, a fresh beginning, my dignity, and a ton of money because, damn, there's a fortune to be made in my new part of the world. If Karen had just approached me and suggested, "I'm bored, let's find something new and exciting to do together," I would have been ecstatic. I was bored too. We could have skied together, and I would have loved teaching her and sharing those experiences. We could have traveled, rafted rivers safely, or ziplined through Cambodia with little risk and lots of excitement. I would have done anything for her until she left me for someone else. I couldn't stomach that. I hear she's deeply unhappy with the dating scene, finding the available guys unsatisfactory. She's envious that her dad admires me for leaving her and making his company loads of money. She regrets her actions, but knows there's no going back. Carrie ensures that every time she boards a helicopter in ski boots. She fastens a parachute, but my ultimate thrill is going to bed with her every night. There's nothing Carrie won't try in bed, and she enjoys everything we do together. I know, because once we try something, she wants to do it again. That never happened with Karen, even in our younger days when things were good. But we haven't spoken since the day her dad had to hold her back so I could leave without further confrontation. She might want to talk, but she understands I have little interest in reconnecting with her. One day, one of the kids may marry or have a child, and I'll feel compelled to attend. Karen will likely be there, and I'll have to interact with her, but I'm not concerned. When that time comes, Carrie will be by my side, not to shield me, but to ensure I'm not too dull or bored.